My name is Denise K. Bartling, and I am 32 years old. He said, I could replace you at any moment. After I asked for respect, I replied, let's test it. Then I moved out that night. We were together for just over 3 years and living together for almost 2. Same apartment, same routines, same arguments that kept changing shape but never actually going away. Lately, the issue had been respect, not cheating, not money, just the way he talked to me when he was annoyed, which was often. Eye rolls, little digs in front of friends, that tone where every sentence feels like a correction. I kept telling myself it was stress, work, whatever. But there are only so many times you can be spoken to like you're disposable before it starts sinking in. Last Thursday night, it finally came to a head. We were arguing about something stupid. Dishes, I think, or maybe the fact that I didn't immediately agree with him about weekend plans. Honestly, it doesn't matter. At some point, I said calmly, I just want you to talk to me with a little respect. He laughed. Not nervous laughter, not awkward laughter. A sharp, dismissive laugh. Then he said it. I could replace you at any moment. Just like that. No hesitation. Like it was a fact he'd been waiting to deploy. I remember looking at him and noticing how relaxed he seemed saying it. Like he'd said it before in his head. Like this was leverage he enjoyed having. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just said, okay, let's test it. He scoffed. What's that supposed to mean? I went into the bedroom and grabbed a duffel bag. He followed me into the bedroom, still confident, still annoyed, still convinced this was a performance. You're being dramatic, he said, leaning against the door frame with his arms crossed. You always do this. You're not actually going anywhere. That was the part he got wrong. I packed essentials. Clothes, laptop, charger, toiletries, no theatrics, no slamming drawers. The calmer I was, the more irritated he became. Every folded shirt seemed to offend him. Every quiet movement felt like a challenge. You're really doing this over one sentence? He snapped. I zipped the bag and looked at him. No, I'm doing this because you meant it. He rolled his eyes hard. You're taking it out of context. I'm taking it literally, I said. You said I was replaceable. I'm just agreeing. That's when his tone shifted. The confidence wobbled. You know couples say things they don't mean when they're angry. You're supposed to push back, not run. Run. That word always showed up when I stopped absorbing things quietly. I slung the duffel over my shoulder. He stepped in front of me, blocking the doorway like he could physically stop the decision. You're embarrassing me, he said. Do you know how this looks? I looked at him and felt something click into place. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of losing the upper hand. I'm not embarrassing you, I said evenly. I'm opting out. He laughed again, but this time it sounded thin. You think this proves something? You'll be back by morning. I didn't answer. I walked past him, grabbed my keys, and left the apartment without looking back. It was 11:30 p.m. when I showed up at my friend Marissa's place with a bag over my shoulder. She didn't ask questions. She just opened the door, looked at my face, and said, Spare room's ready. That alone felt surreal, being somewhere I wasn't immediately corrected for existing. By morning, my phone was already buzzing. At first, it was irritation. You seriously left? This is so immature. I can't believe you'd embarrass me like this. Then it shifted. Can we talk? I didn't mean it like that. You're taking it out of context. I didn't respond. Not because I was trying to punish him, but because every message followed the same pattern. None of them addressed the actual problem. Not the disrespect. Not the fact that he'd used replacement as a threat. Just damage control. That afternoon, he sent a photo of the apartment. My side of the closet half empty. So this is it? He texted. You're really throwing away 3 years? That line annoyed me more than the original insult. As if I was the one who casually introduced the idea that I was interchangeable. I replied with one sentence. You already decided I was replaceable. I'm just agreeing. That's when the certainty vanished. The reply I sent was enough to flip the switch. The messages came fast after that. Long paragraphs stacked on top of each other like he was trying to outrun the silence. He wrote about how relationships are hard. How couples say things they don't mean when they're angry. How I was being too literal, too sensitive, too prideful. According to him, I was supposed to absorb the blow, argue a bit, maybe cry, then settle back into place like I always had before. That's when something finally clicked for me. He didn't say that to end the relationship. He said it to win the argument, to remind me where he thought I belonged, beneath him. That night, while he was still typing, I signed a short-term lease for a small studio across town. It wasn't fancy, barely furnished, thin walls, but it was quiet. No tension hanging in the air. No waiting for the next comment that would make me feel small for wanting basic decency. He found out 2 days later. "You already got another place?" he texted. Wow, that was fast. I almost laughed. He told me I could be replaced at any moment. He just didn't expect me to replace the situation instead. That's when the messages changed again. The anger drained out of them. The certainty disappeared. What replaced it was confusion wrapped in forced casualness. "How's the new place? Hope you're eating real meals. I drove past your gym today and thought of you." I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I just knew that replying, even politely, would reopen a door I'd closed on purpose. Every response in the past had taught him the same lesson. If he pushed hard enough, I'd eventually fold. Silence was the only language he hadn't trained me to speak yet. About 3 weeks in, he finally asked the question he'd been circling. "Are you seeing someone?" There it was. Not "I miss you." Not "Can we talk?" Just fear that I might be moving on faster than he'd planned for. I typed out a response, deleted it, typed again, deleted that one too. In the end, I didn't send anything. That night, I sat alone in my tiny kitchen, eating takeout straight from the container, and realized something uncomfortable. I wasn't sad. I felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a weight for so long that I'd forgotten what normal felt like. No one was correcting my tone. No one was reminding me how easily I could be replaced. No one was treating my presence like a favor. The next morning, another message came through. "I'm just trying to understand how you could walk away so easily." That one almost got a reply. Not because it hurt, but because it was so backwards it stunned me, as if the person who threatened replacement was shocked that the replacement test had actual results. I finally sent one message, just one. It wasn't easy. It was necessary. "You didn't lose me because you made a mistake," I wrote. "You lost me because you were comfortable making it." He didn't respond for 2 days. And in that silence, I finally understood something I hadn't wanted to admit before. He never believed I had the option to leave. To him, my presence wasn't a choice. It was a given, a constant, a resource he could lean on, snap at, and threaten without consequence. And now that resource had removed itself. By the end of the first month, the messages didn't stop. They just became predictable. Every Sunday night, almost on schedule, my phone would light up. Same structure, same tone, a soft opening, a reflective middle, and a closing line meant to reopen the door just enough for me to step back through. "I've been thinking a lot. I know I messed up. I took you for granted." At first, I wondered if it was guilt. Then I realized it was disbelief. He still couldn't wrap his head around the fact that the threat had backfired, that the line he'd used so casually had actually ended something permanent. That saying "I could replace you" hadn't made me fight harder, it had made me leave. One night, I made the mistake of opening a longer message. He wrote about how quiet the apartment felt, how dating apps were exhausting, how people these days weren't serious. He even mentioned a woman he'd gone on 2 dates with and dropped because she didn't really listen. The irony almost made me choke. Buried in the middle of the paragraph was the real line, the honest one. "I didn't think you'd just remove yourself. You always fought back before." There it was again. Not "I hurt you," not "I crossed a line," just surprised that the usual dynamic had failed. I didn't reply, but that message stayed with me for days. It reframed everything, all the arguments, all the sharp comments, all the times I tried to explain how his words landed, only to be told I was overreacting. He wasn't cruel because he hated me. He was cruel because he thought I was safe. A week later, he escalated. He sent me a photo from our old place, my mug still in the cabinet, my jacket still on the hook. The caption read, "I can't bring myself to move these." I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because I felt pulled back, but because I recognized it for what it was. Bait. Nostalgia instead of accountability. I finally typed a response. Calm. Direct. "If you were really sorry," I wrote, "you wouldn't still be trying to pull me back without changing anything." He didn't reply that night. But the next Sunday, right on time, another message arrived. "I'm starting therapy. I see it now. I was wrong." For the first time, I wondered if he meant it or if he just hated losing. I didn't reply to the therapy message, not because I didn't believe in therapy, but because I'd learned the difference between self-reflection and self-preservation theater. I'd seen this before in smaller ways. Big gestures right after crossing a line. Promises that sounded good but never changed the structure underneath. A few days later, another message came through. I told my friends what I said. Even they think I went too far. That one irritated me more than any insult he'd thrown before. Not because he admitted fault, but because he outsourced it. Like the realization didn't land until a panel of peers approved it. Like my reaction alone hadn't been enough. I replied for the first time in weeks. You didn't lose me because you went too far. You lost me because you were comfortable going there at all. He left me on read. The silence that followed lasted almost 2 weeks. No Sunday message, no late-night confession, nothing. I thought maybe this was finally it. Maybe he'd reached acceptance. Then, on a random Wednesday afternoon, my phone buzzed. I ran into someone who knows you, he wrote. They said you seem different. Different. Another message followed immediately. Are you happier? I didn't answer, but I thought about it. About coming home to a quiet apartment where no one was waiting to be disappointed in me. About not rehearsing sentences before speaking. About not feeling like affection was conditional on compliance. Yes, I was happier. He sent one more message that night. I didn't think you'd actually be okay without me. There it was again. Not I miss you, not I'm sorry. Just shocked that the threat of replacement hadn't kept me in place. I put my phone face down and went to bed. Month 3 is when I stopped asking myself why he was still reaching out and started noticing how the messages had changed. They weren't desperate anymore. They were careful, controlled. Like he'd finally accepted that anger didn't work, guilt didn't work, nostalgia didn't work. So now he was trying something else. Self-awareness. I've been doing a lot of thinking, he wrote one night. I see how I used power instead of communication. I didn't respect you the way I should have. If that message had come a year earlier, it might have landed differently. I probably would have felt seen, validated, hopeful, but reading it then, all I could think was how polished it sounded. Too clean, like something practiced in therapy, then rehearsed again before being sent. He followed it up a few minutes later. I know I can't undo what I said, but I want you to know I never really saw you as replaceable. That one almost made me laugh. Whether he believed it now didn't matter. He'd said it without hesitation then. People don't reach for weapons they don't already have within arm's reach. I didn't reply. A few days later, he tried another angle. I keep comparing everyone to you. No one shows up the way you did. I didn't appreciate consistency until it was gone. There it was. Not remorse for hurting me. Regret for losing what I provided. Stability, emotional availability, reliability. He wasn't apologizing to me. He was mourning the version of his life where someone stayed no matter how sharp his words got. That Sunday night, like clockwork, another message arrived. I was wrong. I know that now. I just wish you'd give me a chance to prove it. I stared at my phone for a long time before locking it. Because here was the truth I hadn't said out loud yet. I didn't leave because I was angry. I left because I stopped trusting him with access to me. And trust doesn't come back just because someone finally understands the consequences. Especially not after 3 months of silence taught me how peaceful life could be without waiting for the next insult disguised as honesty. The thing I didn't expect was how predictable it all became. Every week, the same rhythm, a few quiet days, then a message that hovered somewhere between apology and invitation. He never outright asked me to come back. That would have required vulnerability. Instead, he kept the door accidentally open. I drove past your old place today. I heard a song you used to play in the car. I still can't believe we're not talking. What stood out wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't say. He never once asked how I felt now. Never asked if I was okay. Never asked what I needed. Everything still orbited his realization, his loss, his discomfort. One night, I ran into a mutual friend at a bar. We made awkward small talk, and eventually my name came up in a way I recognized immediately. He's been different, the friend said carefully. Quieter. He says he messed up with you. I nodded. Neutral, non-committal. He didn't think you'd actually leave, the friend added. I think that shook him. That phrase again. Didn't think you'd actually leave. It finally clicked for me. The breakup wasn't traumatic for him because he loved me so deeply. It was traumatic because it disrupted his sense of control. I wasn't supposed to be the one who walked away calmly. I was supposed to argue, negotiate, prove my worth. Instead, I tested his claim and passed. That night, another message came through, longer this time. I know I hurt you, he wrote. I know I crossed a line. I've never had someone stand up to me like you did. I respected you more than I realized. I read that one 3 times. Not because it moved me, because it confirmed something important. He respected me after I left. Not when I asked, not when I stayed calm, not when I tried to communicate, only when I removed myself. And that told me everything I needed to know about what staying would have taught him instead. I didn't reply. For the first time, I felt something close to closure. Around the middle of month 3, something shifted again. But this time it wasn't him, it was me. I realized I wasn't bracing myself when my phone buzzed anymore. I wasn't curious. I wasn't anxious. His messages had become background noise, like a radio playing in another room. Familiar, repetitive, easy to ignore. That's when he slipped. The careful tone cracked, just enough for the old entitlement to show. "I don't understand how you can just shut me out like this," he wrote one Tuesday night. "I'm owning my mistakes and you're acting like I don't exist. That's not fair." There it was. The expectation. The belief that accountability from him required access to me. I stared at the screen, half expecting the old reflex to kick in. The urge to explain, to soften, to reassure him that he still mattered. It didn't come. Instead, I felt something colder and clearer. Distance. I replied once. Not defensively. Not emotionally. "I didn't shut you out. I stepped away. There's a difference." He responded almost immediately. "So that's it? After everything we had?" I took my time. I put my phone down. I made dinner. I let the silence stretch. When I finally answered, it was because I wanted to, not because I felt pushed. "Yes," I wrote, "because what we had only worked when I accepted being talked down to." That message sat unread for hours. When he finally replied, the tone collapsed. "I didn't think I was that bad. I swear I never meant to hurt you. I hate that this is how you see me." That one almost worked. Almost. But then I remembered how many times I'd tried to explain how his words landed, how often he'd brushed it off, how respect only became urgent once it had consequences. I didn't respond. That night, lying in bed in my quiet apartment, I understood something important. His apologies weren't about repairing what he broke. They were about undoing the outcome. And those are two very different things. Once you see that distinction, you stop mistaking persistence for change. By the end of the third month, the messages stopped sounding like apologies and started sounding like rewrites. I've been reading about attachment styles. "I think I was just scared of losing you." "I didn't mean replace you literally. You know that, right?" Of course he didn't mean literally. He meant emotionally, power-wise. He meant I was optional in the hierarchy he'd built in his head. If I ever pushed too hard, he could remind me of my place. One night, out of nowhere, he sent a voice memo. I almost didn't listen, but curiosity won. His voice was softer than I remembered. Slower. Tired. "I know I can't take it back," he said. "I know you don't owe me anything. I've never had someone call my bluff like that. You leaving forced me to see myself in a way I didn't like. I was wrong. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't even feel sad. I felt finished." Because even if every word was genuine, it didn't change the reality that the lesson came too late. Growth that requires losing someone isn't a gift to the person who had to be lost. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again, deleted that too. In the end, I didn't reply at all. Not because I wanted the last word, but because I no longer needed one. The silence wasn't punishment. It was closure. I realized then that the version of me who would have gone back didn't exist anymore. She moved out that night with the duffel bag. Whoever I was now didn't need to test anything else. I'm writing this because 3 months feels like enough distance to see things clearly, without anger or nostalgia blurring the edges. When he said, "I could replace you at any moment," he thought he was asserting power. What he didn't realize was that he was also revealing how he saw me. Not as a partner, not as an equal, but as something temporary, conditional, easy to swap out if I ever pushed back. When I said, "Let's test it," I don't think he understood what I meant. I wasn't testing whether he could find someone else. I was testing whether I could leave. And it turns out I could. Moving out that night wasn't a power play. It wasn't a bluff. It was the first honest thing I'd done for myself in a long time. No speeches, no ultimatums. Just a quiet refusal to stay where respect had to be negotiated. The messages still come now and then, less frequently. I was wrong. I see it now. I'd do it differently. I believe he means it. Or at least I believe he believes it, but meaning it now doesn't erase meaning it then. He didn't lose me because he made a mistake. He lost me because he was comfortable making it. I don't hate him. I don't wish him harm. I hope he actually changes for the next person, not for me. As for me, I'm quieter now, calmer, less willing to negotiate my self-respect for the sake of keeping peace. If anyone reading this is on the receiving end of threats disguised as honesty or disrespect framed as confidence, here's what I learned the hard way. The moment someone tells you that you're replaceable, believe them. Not because they'll replace you, but because staying teaches them you won't leave. And leaving teaches you that you always could.